The boys are gentlemen.
It's nice to hear the South African accent.
Rolf, where are you based?
Kent. I'm very close to London.
Okay, so you're UK. Okay.
Moet ek 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat vir jou, Rolf?
Nee, dankie.
It's still
Sorry.
This is Ian.
No,
where are you at the moment, Ian?
I live in Devon, in the west of the UK.
Interesting how many, Greg, how many ex-South African metal musicians are living in the UK. Must be the whole Commonwealth thing, or was it by descent, or must be, yeah?
There's lots of us here. Carl lives not far from here. Chris Gaskell lives in Exeter, not far from here. And old dear friend Rafe Levine is not far from here.
He's also over there. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot here. Yeah, we've all played together in bands over the last 40 years. We've all been. There's a connection there, you know. Chris Gaskell, he was the original bass player of a band we had called Writers Assembly, and it was 4 South Africans playing in the UK in London. And it was brilliant. You know, I don't know if you know the book by Tom Sharp. He wrote a book about South Africa called Writers Assembly. And I'll just show you something. Wow. This was the bass drum skin.
Chris, I've seen that picture. Yeah, I've seen that picture. You posted it on the group.
Yeah, that was 4 South Africans in London gigging, and we were a brilliant band. You know,
is that when Chris just got to London? Because he went over.
This was 90 to about 94, about 4 years before.
84, yeah. He said he left in 84. As I recall.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, so that was
absolutely brilliant.
You guys playing covers and stuff like that at the pubs? Or?
Yeah, but we were playing the top 20, which was like Nirvana and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Really good music then in the 90s, you know.
I know Chris managed to get the absolute pleasure of playing at the Marquee Club.
Yes, yeah. We all played the Marquee. Wonderful.
Yeah, is it with this band that you're talking about now, or
Writers played there, but Black Rose played there, and Rolf and I had a band called Sterling as well. We played there. It was the best venue. It was such a wonderful place to play. You know, it looked like a load of shit, but it's just brilliant. You know, the 80s in London was amazing. We had such a joy in the 80s. You know,
amazing.
It's so cool.
Yeah, the year you guys all left, I went to the bloody army.
That's why we ran away.
So someone had to go. It might as well have been you.
It was me.
Well, Carl did go to the army, didn't he, Rolf? Carl went.
Yes. Yeah.
He had to go. He went. But
that's where he got that crap tattoo, didn't he? He got that absolute crap tattoo with sad sack on his chest, and we never stopped taking the piss.
Anyway, guys, Dean, glad you could join us. What we did last time, and I know it went a little bit out of hand, but I try and pose a certain amount of questions, but just to give everybody breathing space so everybody can give their input on it. And I think the first question I'm going to throw around, and I think that's probably the mystery. Up until our last call and chat with the first round we basically did with Mark Vass and Dean, I was not even aware of bands like Black Rose or Tyrant. I was not aware that there was a pre-scene, a build-up towards what I thought were the originals of the scene. So the question I would like to pose is, in an environment like South Africa, where you have apartheid, you have sanctions, you have a very difficult environment. What triggered you guys to play heavy music? How did it spark you? Where did it come from?
It's quite a long story, actually. We all came from different bands, but I was with a band called Pegasus, which was a recording band. All we ever did was record. We did nothing else, and it got really on my wick. So there was Andy Barnes was the guitarist, and V, who used to sing on the Cliff Richard show, was the singer. But it was kind of very much sort of like rock, intricate rock. but it wasn't heavy metal, but it was rock. And but she refused to go live. She wouldn't go live. So all we ever wanted to do was go live. And so they left the band. They were actually forced out of it. And suddenly Carl Apples Riley arrived on the scene. And I'd never heard anything like that. I mean, that was exceptional. The noise that came out of his guitar. Oh my God. And I was converted immediately. It was just, I'd never heard a sound like this. And then he started playing me, you know, Iron Maiden stuff, the very early days, Motorhead. And I thought, oh, this is brilliant. And that's where sort of like he and I got involved really heavily. And we had a drummer. We were called Banish, and we used to appear at tramps. So we'd start off with like a couple of pop tunes, and then we would just belt out heavy metal. Yeah.
Rolf, sorry to interrupt. I've heard that name mentioned in the meetings before. Banish was Gary also involved with Banish?
Eventually, yes, and Ian as well. So
yeah.
It was the turnover. It was when we were trying to get away from this poppy rock stuff and get into the heavier stuff. I mean, Carl his guitaring just lent to heavy metal. He just had that sound. Very Gary Moore-ish, to be honest. And it was absolutely terrific. But we never had a fantastic drummer. And then all of a sudden, Ian came on the scene, and he was with a band called Savannah. Ian, cue Ian.
Savannah. There was a band in Cape Town. There was a band in Cape Town called Savannah.
Yes, a guy called Clive Hay. He was a South African singer-songwriter. He was very, very talented. Had a wonderful voice. He did a lot of one-man band things, but he also had a band called Savannah, and we did a lot of original stuff. I think he did about 4 or 5 albums in South Africa. Then he emigrated to Australia, and which, when he was in Australia, he redid everything he recorded, including some demos that I played on, and he released it as a CD. He's still playing. He still has the most amazing voice, you know.
Was Savannah a metal band?
No.
Sorry, I was at Ian. I joined late. I forgot to say hi to you guys, man. How's it going?
Hi, Dean. Nice to see you, Dean.
You too, man. Jeez, it's been forever, man.
Yeah. So, can I just go back a bit?
Yeah.
I grew up in Boksburg, right? In 1967, my family emigrated to South Africa. I went to school there. You know, went to college. Went to Boksburg High, which is a load of shit, you know. But that's where I started. You know, there were lots of musicians in the East Rand. You know, the guys from Avoid. You know, I can't remember all the names of the bands, but there were loads of them. And it was a really good music scene then. And this is 77, 78, 79. And there were some rock bands about. There were they weren't metal, but you know, you mentioned the Jimi Hendrix guys.
Band of Gypsies.
Band of Gypsies. They were fabulous. We played on a few gigs with them, and they were the people that we sort of looked up to. You know, they even Rabbit. You know, everybody does a little Rabbit, but they were a good rock band. Rabbit. You know, I went to see them 2 or 3 times. Circus, Bernie Miller. Have you ever heard of them? Bernie was a really good rock frontman. So that's how I started. But I joined Black Rose at Plum Crazy. We were there one night, weren't we, Bob? And they said to me, you know, you fancy joining the band? I said, yeah, okay. That was it.
Who was in Black Rose at that time that you joined, Ian? Who was playing drums and stuff?
Who was playing drums before me?
There was a guy called Wayne somebody. He was the most terrible drummer I ever played.
I don't remember.
But he looked the part. He looked so heavy metal. I've got a picture of him somewhere. But he looked so heavy metal. He was also from England. But his sense of rhythm was appalling. But it was good enough because we just wanted metal, you know. So that's that's how it went. But yes.
But Ian, when did you actually start playing drums? Like before you joined all of these bands, like did you start playing like in your bedroom?
In 74 I started. I played in various local bands in Boksburg. I have a dear friend, a guy called Mark Burdett. We went to school together. We played in lots of bands together. He was the guitarist from Riotous Assembly as well. But him and I sort of did all the little pubs, not pubs, you know, the little places in Boxburg. That's how we started. And he played with Flash Harry. I don't know if you remember Flash Harry.
No, I'm not. Doesn't sound
Flash Harry were a sort of new wave band in the
and I love Flash Harry. They were when I was in the army. They were one of my favorite bands of all time, South African bands.
We went to school together in Boxburg. We played in loads of bands. He came to the UK about the same time as we came as well in '84. I went back to South Africa in 86, 87, that Christmas, and it was a different place. The South Africans had long hair, and they were wearing denim and leather. You know, that was unheard of when I was growing up there. You know, I had this, hey, do you want to dance? All that shit I had really long hair.
I mean, that album was released in 1984.
It was, yeah.
I mean, it was the first heavy metal album in South Africa. People can say what they like. It was the very first album released heavy metal album in South Africa. I don't know if it was the first album, but it was. All I hope that we influenced other people that carried on after us. You know.
Well, yeah, and I don't think there wasn't anything of that kind of heaviness. I mean, there was the album from Suck in 1971 or whenever that was. There was that album.
Heavy metal. I've got some of those albums, and I've got quite a few South African albums, you know, and Hawk as well. Hawk were quite heavy. Yeah. Joburg Hawk and all that. But yeah, I mean, the Black Rose thing is the whole history of it is less than 3 years, you know.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
We've all played in other bands together. We you know, over the years, you know, this is 42 years ago, you know.
I try to put a timeline to it, Rolf, and I mean, the album was released in '84, so by that time you must have been going for quite a while. I mean, you guys, 1985 Black Rose was pretty much done, I would say. Yeah. So you would say you guys started, what, 1981, around there?
82 we started.
82, yeah?
82, yeah. And we jumped in, we're going professional. You know, we're playing the club circuit in South Africa, we're going professional, we're playing heavy rock. And it was like, you're stupid. What's wrong with you, you know? But we did it. God. We were trying to influence people. Come on, this is good, you know, Lizzie. You know, that sort of stuff, you know.
Well, you guys were all we had, man, like in the line of seeing heavy band live. I mean, that was incredible.
I really hope we influenced, you know, a few people to pick up an instrument. In the UK, we did a 5-track demo here, which we have copies of, and it sounds just like Black Rose. It's a continuation of the album that we did in South Africa.
What year was that recorded?
That was been 84, 85. That would have been.
So after the Live By It album, obviously.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh wow, man! We need to hear some of that stuff.
It's good because it's very, very good. Rolf is singing like a blooming lark. You know, it's brilliant. And because we were rehearsing every day, because we were so determined. We had this typical South African attitude. We're going to do this. We're you know, and we worked hard. We struggled. We had no money. We were hungry. I was always hungry.
So Ian, okay. So basically, you said you guys were hanging around Boxburg, and you were hanging around Boxburg.
I met Rolf and Carl at this club called Plum Crazy. They had a musicians bar there, and if you remember, it was free, and it was wonderful. All the musicians hung around. You could do your gig in the evening, and then go there at midnight and chat with your friends and everything. It was a wonderful place, and that's where I met them.
I was just thinking, in Plum Crazy, we invented a drink. It was called the Headbanger.
So this was about, what, 1980 something? 82. And 1982. So let's take it from there. And then obviously you got, I know for a fact you guys played some resident gigs and stuff like that. I'll get into them.
Yeah. So this was our drummer before Ian joined. Wayne, and I don't remember. He lived very close to where I lived.
He looks like a Wayne.
And he was the drummer. But let me tell you a story. So we got invited to play Germiston, the Germiston concert. 50,000 people turned up for the Radio 5 concert. and I got kidnapped that day. I got kidnapped by the Hells Angels, and their boss wanted to meet me.
Whoa.
And I said, I'm going on stage in about 20 minutes. No, he wants to meet you. I said, I'm going on stage. He wants to meet you. So I climbed on the back of the motorbike and we drove out somewhere in Germiston, and I met the guy, and I thought he was going to kill me because he was sitting there with a Bowie knife.
Rolf, tell them, you need to tell them you had a shotgun on a belt, right?
I did,
That's why they liked you. There's this singer in a band just about to go on stage. He's got a shotgun. He's got ammunition on him. But it was just for show. But these guys went, we love you. Come meet the boss. You know.
So,
and we were panicking because
we started
without Rolf. Carl sings "Are You Ready" by Thin Lizzy. We started, and Carl sings it, and he comes on after the first song.
Wow!
But what you didn't see was the Hells Angels had driven through the middle of the crowd in a V.
Yeah.
People flying everywhere, and they just drove me, and then they picked me up and put me on the stage, and the crowd went berserk.
Oh my lord, that's even a better intro than Rob Halford in Priest, man.
Yes. Oh man, this is like movie stuff.
The guy just helped us create this vibe, which was fantastic. And when we walked off stage after that gig, we got the record.
Wow.
That's how we got the record.
The record company was there watching us, and they said it was such a vibe. And we ended with 2 original songs. That's what made the thing. It was live on the radio, Radio 5. And I've got the recording of it, and it's stunning. There's mistakes, and the sound is a bit rough, but you can hear that raw energy that we had, you know.
Ian, wasn't that the gig at Eastgate that was live on Radio 5?
There was another one. That was another one. Yeah.
That's the first time I saw you guys.
You were there, weren't you?
We bunked school. Myself, Stephen, and Dirk Morozek. We bunked school we were at school, and we left halfway through the day, and we took our blazers and our ties off so they couldn't identify what school we were from. We came to Eastgate to watch you guys.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, that was really the beginning of the big Black Rose, because suddenly we had a record deal, and we didn't even have enough songs together.
Who was that with, Rolf? Which record label was that?
Music Team. Yeah, and they gave us a guy who knew nothing about heavy metal, and he recorded us. And Carl kept on saying, "That's not the sound. That's not the sound."
And the guitars really suffered on that album. But it was recorded in 2 days. You know, we did it over the weekend. It was bass, drums, and guitar live. Right, you could hear that. And then the solos and the vocals were done afterwards, you know, and the silly effects. We had a cymbal that you hit, and then they turned it backwards, you know, that sort of thing, you know. And it wasn't mastered. It was recorded and it was mixed pretty well, and then they sent it to print. It was never mastered. Wow. So this is why it sounds so bad, you know. And it's not what we recorded, you know.
It was a guy called Richard Mitchell.
Mitchell, but he went on to become very famous. He was really good afterwards, but he had no experience of Carl's guitar, you know.
He didn't know there was a tech on an amp.
I don't think it sounds that bad, you know. I mean, I know it could be a hell of a lot better, but I don't think it sounds that bad.
No, but it's. But you know, move on a few years, and we should have we've got the master. Rolf has the master still.
God, really, to this day?
Yeah. Yes, he's still got it. He's got
Rolf, re-release it, man.
But it needs remixing, but it's on the 2-inch, and you know how they disintegrate after a while, you know.
Yeah.
But we'd love to get it down on digital, and then we could fix it, you know.
How long was that whole recording session when you guys were in the studio? How long did it take to do it?
2 days.
2 days?
2 days.
It was what, 8 songs? 8 songs, yeah?
8 songs. We were so rehearsed. We knew the songs. We could just do it. And like I say, Mark Proctor, you know, Carl and myself, we did it live. And if you listen to it, there's a few little things there. But it was live.
I listened to that album about 2 weeks ago. For me, it sounds fucking heavy and metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it
But
was.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was talking to Rolf earlier on, and we had this infight in the band. Not an infight, but Carl wanted to do really heavy stuff, right? Rolf wanted to do lighter, sort of Van Halen type thing. And I wanted to do prog. I wanted to do Rush, you know, and like, there was battles, you know, what do we do? You know, how are we going to do this, you know?
That's why you and Rolf would have worked well together, because, I mean, Rolf, you had the keyboards and stuff in the band. I mean, Rush is very based on keyboards and bass and stuff like that, and the guitar.
Yeah, the keyboards are quite funny because, like, I managed to switch them on occasionally.
It was one note, wasn't it? One finger.
Yeah, it was. I had to do the beginning of "Are You Ready?" Remember, and it was like, the whole stage just vibrate, and that was my keyboard. I wasn't allowed to play anything else. Just sing, sing, Rolf.
So after the recording, and then they obviously released the album. Did you guys then do like a supporting tour in South Africa?
Yeah. We toured for about 5 months.
Whoa!
All over the place. We went.
Orange Free State. Remember the
we went to Durban, right? We played Durban Ice Rink. It was like a festival, and there were Indian guys with heavy metal shirts and you know, they had Iron Maiden stuff, and I'd never seen this before. These guys, we were signing autographs and stuff like that, and these guys were Indian. It's like, wow, I didn't know this thing existed anywhere else, you know. And it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. And there's a story about that Durban gig. I don't know if I'll have to tell you, but
yes, you must.
Mark Proctor was a fucking rock star, right? He looked good on stage. He was, you know, but he was the most infuriating guy. He was never on time. We did these gigs, and we'd say, right, the gig's at 8 o'clock. We have to be there at 6 o'clock, set up, and he would turn up at 8 o'clock. So Rolf got the idea that he'll say the gig's at 5 o'clock, and we've got to be there at 3 o'clock. And then he would turn up at 5 o'clock, and we'd be fine. That's how we had to treat it, like that, you know. But in Durban, when we played Durban Ice Rink, because he pulled a chick every night, you know, and he pulled a transvestite.
Knew you were going to go there.
And it was the funniest thing. And we were on the bus, the tour bus going home, and he was late. We were sitting there waiting for him, you know. He goes, "Oh, that's the worst night," you know. But that was Mark. He was wonderful. Yeah. We loved him. Yeah, we absolutely loved him. You know, and he came. You know, when I think about it now, it makes me cry because he came to London in about 2000, and we got together and we had a night in Soho. Me, Carl, Mark Burdett, other people were there, and we had the most drunken, debauched night in Soho. We nearly got arrested. There was a South African girl working in the pizza place or wherever it was, and we were talking to her. Hey, will you and I? All this shit. Next minute, police come. They want to arrest us. And the next day, Mark Proctor had to drive to Birmingham for a conference. We were out of it. I mean, you know that phrase, blind drunk? That's how I couldn't see it. You know, I don't know how we got home. It was like, wow. And that's the last time I saw him. And that's my memory of him. You know, he was just he was a fantastic guy.
Was he like the Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols?
Yes. He could just look at a girl and they'd go, "Oh, I love you." He was like that. You know, he was a proper rock star, Mark. He was proper, you know. Yeah. And as a drummer, I was very lucky because Black Rose had 3 bass players. You know, we had Gary Walker to start with. He was brilliant, you know. We had Mark Proctor. He was a fucking rock star. And then when we came to the UK, we had Dave Boyce. And Dave Boyce has played with Little Angels. He's played
Cheap Trick,
Grand Slam. He's playing now, you know. So as a drummer, I was very lucky to play with these guys, you know.
Then you did Durban. Did you do Cape Town at all ever?
No, we did the round show. We supported
Ungo Jerry.
Mungo Jerry.
Mungo Jerry.
In the summertime when the weather is
And they were brilliant. They were such nice guys, you know. But yeah, we did the Golden Banana. We played there. We like resident there for a while.
Yeah, so if I ask about that residency, I've got that poster still of that. So you only did in Joburg. You did residency at the Banana.
Yes, we did. We did the festivals. We did in '83. We did the South African Grand Prix, and we supported Hotline. Yeah, and it was fabulous. Thousands of people there, you know.
Just remember, we did Krugersdorp, Leopold's Flay. You know that.
Oh yes, Krugersdorp. Yeah.
That's where they chucked me on stage and said, "You can sing, Rolf." And I thought, "No, well, I can't sing. Just sing." And so I had to get up there and sing.
We did a gig once in some crappy little town, and there was wire mesh in front of the stage. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I remember the drum kit was the biggest pile of shit, and they said, "No, you use the house kit," and it was falling to bits. And there was wire mesh in front because the people that threw bottles at the band.
Speaking of stuff in front of the stage, one of the guys mentioned the other night that when you guys played in Pretoria at the one gig, they had all these fir trees on the stage, and you guys made them rip them off before you went to play. Do you remember that one?
We did it. No, we did the one where you have all the smoke bombs, and then the headbangers would hang over the stage, and they get away, and they would still hang over the stage, and then Carl would say, "Just hit the button, Rolf." Boom. And all these guys had black faces.
We had the most. Yeah. We had bombs. We had a smoke machine, dry ice. Do you remember?
Yeah.
We
were in Port Elizabeth, and then we were learning to use the smoke machine, and then Carl just dropped this big lump of ice into it, and the whole audience disappeared.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. The owner of that hotel. Actually, through this group that we've set up on Facebook, he actually got a hold of me the other day. And I asked him if he's got any posters. It's unbelievable. And all the old bands that had residencies or played in Port Elizabeth played at his spot. And, And
he was a bass player.
He's got nothing left of posters. He said that it's all gone. But I mean, he
played in a famous band, didn't he? He played in a band called Tank, I think it was. Was it Tank?
Oh, wow.
Or he was a bass player. And my bass drum caught fire at that gig. We had those par 38s. You know, they used to get really hot. And I had a pillow in the bass drum, and the par 38 fell in the pillow, and the pillow was on fire. I'm playing. Cold! With smoke coming out of the bass drum.
Cool show, man.
Didn't need a smoke machine.
No, an interesting thing was posted. I know that a guy like Philip Nell, which is one of the best South African metal producers that ever came out of South Africa, he had his own metal label called Inas Records, and most of our generation of bands, he owned all of us at that time. He made a comment.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that most of us bands, even VOD, that we felt that we reached our limit in South Africa, and we basically, in his words, we fucked off too soon to the UK. Because we just released this album, and we didn't drive this album in South Africa. We went overseas. Do you guys feel, after you guys did the Black Rose album, and you did a couple of, how long after the album did you guys leave? And
6 months.
6 months,
wow.
Yeah, we did the album, we toured, and then we went. We were gone in the June. You know, that was it.
And how did that work out for you?
It was hard. It was very hard. You know, we had nothing. We had no money.
Nobody knew who Black Rose was there.
No, and you know, if you speak to Rolf went around all the record companies, all the guys there, and they said the Black Rose album was racist. They would never. What was the words? Never sign a white South African band. That's what they said.
Wow.
And
is that what the guys were telling you?
Yeah. He basically said, number one, you need to go and make a name for yourself. He said, you're new in the UK, so go make a name for yourself. Just so you know, I've still got the list which Morris Horwitz gave me. These are all the record companies I went to. Every single one of them.
God.
Myself and Carl went to the whole flipping lot.
Yes.
And all the managing directors of these companies, and they listened to the album. They said, "Yeah, and go make a name for yourself," you know. And when we met our bass guitarist, he had some contacts because he was with a band called Awe, and he basically got us the first gig at the Marquee. So we're still quite, you know, naive then. And then after that, it was almost, you could get, once you played to the Marquee, you could play anytime, any band. Just once you knew Jack Barry, you were okay. And, you know, all made friends with Jack. And then every sort of like once a week, there was a heavy metal band on. So as we did, I mean, we supported Great White, Thin Lizzy. It was Grand Slam. It was Phil Lynott, Grand Slam at the time. That's what went for Lynott.
Great White.
Just John McCoy.
No,
but Ian,
we did Seek Sputnik.
My God! You really?
We did some bands. Let me tell you, we did some.
Said that they didn't want to sign you guys because the band was racist. Like, what was their reasoning behind that?
Well, the songs Blackout they didn't like.
And is this because you came from South Africa?
Yeah, it's about the war. It's got nothing to do with
kind of
South Africa. But I'll tell you, my dear friends Eric and Lucian from Evoid, they had the same problem. They'd done a massive album in South Africa. They toured and everything, and they had the same problem. They went to all the record companies, and they came after. They were about 85, 86, whenever it was, and they were told, "We will never sign a white South African band. It's not. They can't promote it because of apartheid, because of all this shit that was going on." And
that was the comment. What Ian says there is correct. All of them said we can't promote an album that comes with white South Africans.
White South Africans.
And in 1988, I came across the channel from Belgium to England, and I didn't even get into the country. And it was the same thing. They started mentioning about apartheid and all that, and they said,
But it's amazing they never looked deeper into the bands.
No, they won't.
No. They couldn't. There was millions of bands all trying to do stuff.
Yeah, but also not even the band's message. You know, like is the band?
No, it was a hard time. You know,
was the band automatically like racist, white, whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, if it hadn't been for Dave Boyce, we wouldn't have got as far as we got. Kind of thing. Dave Boyce, our bassist, basically knew everybody in the industry, and he loved our music. Right. Absolutely loved our music. You know, so
Rolf and Ian, so did the whole band leave altogether? The four guys, you all went to the UK at the same time?
No. Mark Proctor couldn't go because I think he had to look after his mother. If I remember rightly, he lived with his mother, and he couldn't go. But he did have a British passport, so he could have done it. You know.
Yeah.
Does the song Razor have anything to do with the band Razor?
No. In fact, that was one of the only songs we never wrote.
Oh wow!
That was written by the manager.
I see. There's got a star next to it on you.
Yeah.
Okay. The asterisk.
But we also had Jimmy Nichols on the album as well. He was a good guitarist as well. But Jimmy basically came and did some of the harmonies with me.
How many copies were sold of that album? Did you guys got any idea?
We don't know.
We heard that he had sold internationally. He had sold to Poland. Around about 30,000 albums went to Poland. Wow. And when I went to Poland, because I looked after Poland, was one of my countries I looked after. They had heard of Black Rose, funny enough, but
it sold a lot more in Scandinavia. But there was this group of South African promoters, managers, record company used to go to meet them every year. And they used to sell the South African products to Europe, and the artist never got paid because Mark Bass did a thing with the girl from Clout, Cindy Alter, and Clout sold all around Europe, and they never got any money from it. And the Black Rose album sold well in Scandinavia because there are Scandinavian copies of it, and it's like we didn't even know. Wow.
So I'm going to just stick on the album subject now. So in my mind, a fucking brilliant album. It's for me the first metal album from South Africa. And 6 months later, you all buggered off to the UK. You got there, and old Rolf had to go around and listen to all this treacherous talk from all these record labels. And then you guys sat around. So you obviously started doing some local gigs and stuff like that. And Yeah, how long before the sort of demise of Black Rose would you say? How long did it last in the UK before you guys sort of just?
Well, the Black Rose thing lasted about a year, and then it fell apart. And Carl left the band, but Rolf and I carried on with Dave Boyce, and we got another guitarist, and we carried on for another year or so, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it was, and it just petered out, you know, because there was only 2 original members left. So yeah, it sort of died, but we all carried on. You know, we all did lots of other things.
Did it ever cross your minds to, at that stage, bugger this, let's go back to South Africa where we were big, and let's just go back?
We should have done in about 86, 87, because like I said to you, it was different. You know, everybody had long hair. Everybody was into rock music. You know, if we'd have gone back then and done a tour, or you know, maybe done another album or something, I think.
You know what you said earlier as well. You said all you hope for is that you actually inspired some people to pick up instruments and that. And when you're saying go back at 87, by that time our band had started. There was a whole lot of the thrash, starting in the thrash on, and you guys were responsible for all of us picking up those instruments
at that time.
Yeah.
The guys in Lynx, you guys, Razor, all the bands we've mentioned, Montreux, you know, that's what you guys started off, man.
Yeah.
The record label producer Philip Nell said, and I don't understand why these great bands like Black Rose and all these bands who produce albums, we it's almost like we were in a rush to get overseas, and then that killed us. And in the meantime, in our absence in South Africa, if we stayed and we just traveled to do gigs in the UK, we would have done way better.
Yeah.
And it struck me because I never thought of it that way. Kind of a hidden truth in that, because the scene had grown in our absence so much. You guys probably
yeah. It's a challenge. Go to the UK and see how good you are. You know, go and play the Marquee and see if you can pack the place out. See how good you are. That was the thinking of it. You know, let's try.
I think one of the things that came out after all of it was that we should have gone to the United States. We were really stupid. To come to Britain was the most stupid thing we ever did.
Yeah,
we should have gone straight to the States, and we probably would have made it. But we stayed there, and we hoped, and we were. I'm going to say we were comparable to the bands that were playing here. So be it Iron Maiden had the big stage show, we could actually play like they could.
The South African musicians that got in, or the producers or engineers that went to the States, they all did it well. Mutt Lange and all those guys.
We tried to get him to record us.
The only musician that I know of the lot of the first wave of the South African metal who went to the States was old Schoon Robert.
Yeah.
And he seems to have done pretty well.
And Trevor Rabin, of course.
Trevor Rabin, yeah.
Correct.
I mean, if Black Rose went to like say LA or something, and you got taken under the wing of those producers and those guys there, you would have taken off.
Yeah. We thought about it, but we had British passports, and it was easy. We were straight in the country. It was dead simple, you know. Yeah. But Stretch, what a guitar player. I mean, what a guy. I knew him, you know, when he played with Danny DeBette. My mate Mark Burdett played in his band as well. You know, he was a brilliant guitarist. Wow, you know, he's a very clever guy as well.
Yeah, he's busy he's finishing up his first pedal at the moment. He said he's going to release it.
I think the sad thing about Black Rose breaking up was we had started writing some really good numbers.
Yeah.
And that was the sad thing. We'd actually now got a sound of our own. We'd actually started creating melodies that you could actually pump out. You know, it wasn't like, it was heavy metal melody, you know, it was just so thick. And we got to that stage and then the whole thing just fell apart. And it's just a bit sad because, like, say you get yourself a new guitarist and he just never sounded like Carl. He never did. You know, and I mean, the bass player we were lucky to get him because he was exceptional. And also another beautiful boy that could get any girl he wanted. So he was another one. So we had another Mark Burdett, but a British one. But I that was the sad thing is we started writing some really good songs. And then, you know, thought, well, you know, now what do you do? And
have you guys got any recordings after the album of Black Rose?
I have. I've got them. Have you got them as well, haven't you?
I've got them somewhere, yeah.
Yeah,
remember,
yeah.
we were going to re-record when we came to your place, and then I yodeled so beautifully when I came. I honestly hadn't sung for, like, I'd given up with Air Force, you know, the Iron Maiden guys, and basically then came to them. I hadn't sung for about 3-4 years, and I'll tell you something, if you're going to sing heavy metal, you better keep singing, because you're not going to do that. I just yodeled out, you know.
I'm just looking at this album cover of the back cover of this album. Ian looks like he was about 15 years old.
Or, well, I think I was the oldest of all of them, but I mean, we were young, and yeah, I can say we were lucky to meet. I mean, of all the things, you know, that I decided to interview a guitarist because, you know, Peter van der Merwe, who was the guy who owned the studio, the Pegasus studio, he said, yeah, let's get someone in, and this guy came in and he played like country and western, and I thought, who the earth is this? I'm not interested in that. Anyway, we thought, well, if that's the only guitarist we can get, and then Carl walked in. Oh, yeah. Man, it was just, what a flipping noise. What a fantastic noise. Yeah.
What's happened to Mark Proctor? Has he sort of just disappeared off the... He died.
He passed away, yeah.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
It was in the last few years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't so long ago.
It was weird, because I'd spoken to him on a video call. You see, when I left music, I went into video. The company I work for invented what you're watching today. So when I said, if this system works, it's because that's what I sold for nearly 9 years.
Yeah.
The first video conferencing is what I sold.
What inspired you to go the keyboard route?
It was weird because Pegasus didn't have a keyboard player, and they wanted a keyboard in the band, and I so desperately wanted to be in the band. And I mean, as a kid and even at school, I sang in operettas and all kinds of things. So I loved singing, but I never thought I'd get the opportunity to sing anything. I thought anything. So I bought a keyboard. My first keyboard was, oh man, I've got a Akai now, which is about this big, and it sounded like a little organ, with mini pops.
Yeah.
This was my first one, and Andy Barnes taught me to play it. But I didn't know how to play it. I just wanted to be a keyboard player, and that was fine. And then I kind of got the gist of how you put it together. And then he started getting more complicated. And then I bought my Jupiter 4. At the same time, I bought a Korg CX3, and I bought an Elkin Steel piano, which was like a grand piano that stood up.
Weighted keys. Yeah.
It was, the key came out of the box.
Yeah.
It was absolutely terrific sound. So they were my 3 keyboards, because one could do, the CX3 could actually do all the strings and all that kind of stuff. Oh no, I had strings. It was called a Stradivarius, a strings machine as well. And they were the 4 sounds you needed. And then, like I say, funny enough, we got a singer in, I can't remember her name, Jo Day or something like that, and she couldn't sing heavy metal. And then Carl said, well, you're doing all the harmonies, you just get up and sing. Yeah. And she didn't turn up for the gig. And so I had to sing. And
Rolf, who inspired you as a synth or keyboard player in those days? I mean, in those days it was pretty much Vangelis, Jean-Michel Jarre, and those guys.
It was Rick Wakeman, really. Rick Wakeman was probably the best synth player at the time. I mean, Vangelis did his synth stuff, but he used to build his own, Rick Wakeman, and just to make noises, you know. Oh, geez.
What happened after Black Rose split up? If you not really split up, but sort of went separate ways. What happened?
Okay, first of all, we lost the name Black Rose because the guy from Deep Purple, Ian Gillan phoned me. He phoned me and said
it was his wife or his sister or something wanted to have a band called Black Rose, and they threatened us with a solicitor because we didn't have any money. We couldn't fight that, and that was it. We changed the name, you know.
We changed the name.
Carl had already left by then. Yeah.
So we became Sterling.
Yeah.
And still heavy metal band, and that went on for a couple of years. The guitarist was a really very competent guitarist, and he probably would have worked well with Carl because he, you know. But we got him and Keith Haggis, and we carried on gigging. It was myself, Ian, Keith Haggis, and David Boyce. And we played the Marquee, and we played all the events we should have played.
Have you guys ever thought of, you said you've got the 2-inch masters. Have you ever thought of re-releasing that album again?
we should really get it digitalized before it falls to bits, you know, and that's the most important thing. And hopefully it's still good. Carl was never happy with the guitars, was he, on that?
And you weren't very happy with the drums, and Mark
I wouldn't touch it.
It was just the sound.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch the drums or the bass or anything like that. You know, maybe redo the guitars if he's not happy with that. But it's got to be saved. You know, it has to be saved.
Like you said, you guys released about 50,000 copies or something. Did you know of? Yeah. Long gone. I mean, why not re-release it? It was the first metal album from South Africa.
Yes.
I think we will. We've got the money now to do it. If we wanted to do it, it's just trying to find a studio that still deals in 2-inch tape. We mastered it down to that, but you really need to take it right back to the 2-inch.
Ian and Rolf, what are you guys up to these days?
I still play. I play in a 6-piece band. Mm-hmm. We got a brass section. It's not heavy rock. We do a bit of rock. We do Peter Gabriel, David Bowie, that sort of stuff. We did quite a few of our own tunes a few years ago, but I play most weekends. I built a studio here. During COVID, I don't know if you heard, I lost my wife during COVID. And it was horrible. And just before COVID, and you know, we had a funeral and everything like that, and then COVID hit, and I was stuck here on my own. I got a massive house here, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to build a studio. And it was therapy. It was really, I had to do something. So I built a fabulous studio, and we rehearse here, we record here. And that's what I'm doing now.
So Ian, I mean, you've got the studio there, and you've got all your mates around, the Gaskells and all those blokes around. So why don't you guys just do a mini album of old South African Razor and Tyrant and all the old South African guys together and record that?
Yeah, we I mean, Chris and I have worked together. Carl and I have done stuff. You know, we have to do more. You know, we have to have a big get together.
Yeah, have a good old South African bash-up would be the perfect opportunity to do something like that.
You know, we don't see enough of each other, all of us. You know, we're so busy with our lives. You know, Rolf and I were just talking earlier on, and we want to do something. We want to get back to and just have a thing. You know, I would love for you, Dean and Mark, to come to Devon and meet everybody. Meet Carl.
Oh yeah, man.
Gary and Rafe Levine is here. You know.
Oh really?
About the DJs. The DJs were responsible for everything for us and the bands in South Africa. They played our stuff. They didn't have to, you know. Yeah. The local, you know, the new local bands, you know, they were so supportive. All the DJs then, you know.
Yeah, man. Rafe was responsible for playing so much heavy stuff.
Was it Phil? Was it back then? Sorry, pardon my ignorance, but was it Phil Wright?
No, he came later.
It was Ian de Vos. Yeah, I think it was Ian de Vos.
I wrote some names down.
Rafe Levine, Chris Pryor.
Chris Pryor.
Chris Pryor, the rock professor. Yeah.
Yeah, all those guys. They were so supportive, you know. It was. And Rolf and I were talking earlier. We left too early. You know, the Black Rose story is very, very short. It was 2 years, less than 2 years in South Africa, and a year and a bit in the UK. Then it was over.